everybody, and welcome to another video. I'm Crystal, one half of For Love of the Mouse, and I'm super excited that you are here today because today we are going to be doing a little chit chat, get ready with me, and talking about all things Disney, all things travel, all things life. So grab yourself a cup of coffee or a cocktail depending on when you're watching this, and let's get ready. If you're new around here, please make sure that you click that subscribe button, click that like button, and that bell notification. It really helps us out and it helps us to know what kind of videos you guys enjoy. I really enjoy making these types of videos. These are some of my favorite videos to watch on YouTube, and I think they're really relaxing. I don't know if that might be weird, but I think they're really relaxing. So I really enjoy watching them, and it's actually kind of killing two birds with one stone today because I'm going to be filming another video today and into tomorrow that is a cook with me video. Disney released a recipe for one of the Festival of the Arts desserts, and it is the one that I most wanted to try, but we're not able to go to Festival of the Arts this year, so I thought it would be really fun to make it, and I thought it was going to be really awesome, and then I kept looking at the recipe and I was like, this is going to be really hard. So stay tuned to see how that works out because that should be a fun video. So that'll be coming out soon. We're just going to jump right in. I'm going to tell you guys about the products that I'm using today, and I'm just kind of doing a simple look. I'm not doing anything too crazy. Like I said, I'm just kind of filming. We're hanging out here, so not too much going on today, but I hope you guys are having a good week, and let's just jump in and get started. So I'm going to first go in with my primer. Today I'm going to use a drugstore primer, but it's one of my favorite drugstore primers. I absolutely love it. And it's the Maybelline Master Prime Primer Base. And this one is the blurring and pore minimizing formula. They have several different formulas. And you guys, if you watched my last one, you know that I just go in with my fingers and gently spread it across the face. Obviously, always use clean hands when applying makeup and when touching your face. I just love using my fingers for primer. It's just the best way to get the product the most worked onto the skin. And I just don't like using brushes or sponges for primer. It just doesn't spread as evenly across the skin, and it doesn't help the other products to sit better on the skin. So that's why I do that. The first thing I want to talk about today is actually not Disney related specifically. I want to just touch base a little bit because I know we've been kind of not absent from social media, but we've been I know I've missed some comments, and I know that we haven't posted in our regular schedule. There's a couple reasons for that. Next, I'm going to go in with my Sephora Matte Perfection Tinted Moisturizer, and I'm going to mix it with a little bit of the Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Filter. And I really like this tinted moisturizer. It's really, really good. I don't wear full coverage anything ever, so this to me is as full coverage as it gets, and it's a tinted moisturizer. And then I love the Flawless Filter because I like to have a glow. If I'm gonna spray tan all year like I do, I want to have that glow on my skin at all times. So I'm just gonna mix those on my sponge, and then we'll go in with that. I'm just gonna mix those two products on my finger, and then I'll spread it on the skin, and then I will go in with my sponge that's dampened. So the first thing I want to talk about isn't really Disney related, but we have missed some comments, and we have just not been posting on YouTube as frequently as we like to, and that's really my fault. We have some just crazy family stuff going on. I'm not gonna talk about it too in depth. I know that that's not why you're here. You're like, y'all don't want to hear about that kind of stuff. We're going to talk about Disney, but I did just want to do a quick explanation. So my dad is really sick, and he is elderly. My parents had me pretty late in life, and so my dad is really sick, and they live about 20-25 minutes away from us, and he went to have what was supposed to be a pretty routine procedure done for his dialysis to get a port put in. And when he got home that night, he fell, and I'm not saying it was my fault, but it was kind of my fault because I should have had Bryson there the whole time. I should have known that if my dad is dead weight, and which he would be after a surgery like that I can't do this on my own. So I should have called Bryson, but I didn't. So long story short, 3 ER trips later and multiple hours, he is in the hospital with a broken shoulder in 3 places. And he has been in the hospital now for a week today, actually. Well, the third and final trip to the hospital was a week ago today. And so it's just been crazy. I'm really behind on work. And so we just haven't like had the opportunity to film as often as we like and to get videos out and to really like keep up with the blog has been really falling behind. I didn't get nearly enough posts out this week, but sometimes life just happens and you just gotta roll with it. So we will hopefully be back to normal soon. What's funny about that is we have my mom and dad's dog with us, and she is like a 100-pound yellow lab. So we already have, if you guys watch our weekly vlogs, you know we have 2 big dogs, and so we have like 300 pounds of dog in our house right now. And Bella, who's my parents' dog, is completely blind. This is my Too Faced Born This Way concealer. Bella is completely blind and so she like bumbles around the house, and our dogs like don't necessarily, obviously like dogs don't care that you like are different, right? But they are like, what is wrong with this dog? Why does she run into everything? So it's just been really interesting. But she's fun. She's a really sweet dog. We like joke that she has like much better manners than our dogs. So like if she talked, she would be like, "Excuse me, Mr. Bryson, sir." Cause she's just like she's super delicate and like polite, but she is just a wrecking ball because she can't see where she's going. So to go along with that, last week I was hoping to put my Christmas away. Yes, it's almost February and I still have my Christmas up, but because of everything that happened, I just didn't get the opportunity to put it away. So we're still headlong into Christmas. I've not put one Christmas thing away since this started. So super fun times with that. But that is enough of that. Let's jump into Disney. So next I'm gonna go in with my Urban Decay Naked Illuminator. This is, I use this as a bronzer. I love it. I use it all over my face. Because I do like to have a bronzed glow, like a deep bronzed glow all year. I use a bronzer all year round, all over my face, and then I'll go in with a matte bronzer to contour. So that's how that works. So let's jump into Disney though. Lots has gone on since our last check-in. Let's start with the most devastating news, which is the Magical Express. So Disney's Magical Express, Bryson talked about it a little bit on his live stream. Disney's Magical Express is it's such a thing that sets Disney apart, right? Like, so it really sets Disney service apart from other things and from other places. And when we typically tell people why they should stay on property, Magical Express is one of the top reasons for why. Now, since Disney has reopened in July of 2020, they weren't picking up your luggage, so you had to pick up your own luggage, which was super unfortunate because that was like definitely one of the things we really liked about Magical Express, was that they would just pick up your luggage and bring it to you, and magically it appears in your room, and it's just amazing. So you'd have to pick up your own luggage, but still, like, Magical Express is magical. It's so awesome and we just love it. This is from Traceek, the company Traceek, and I really like it. It's like a crayon. And I'm gonna use it, I use it as a contour on my cheeks and on my nose. And it has a brush on it. I don't use the brush. Actually, I literally just figured out how to brush on it because I read it. Ooh, that's a really nice brush. Maybe we'll use it today. But I got this in a subscription box and I really like it a lot. So I'm gonna go in with that to contour a little bit, not doing anything crazy. So Magical Express announced that they will be ending the service completely in January of 2022. And I just think that I'm just gonna be candid, I think that's a huge mistake on the part of Disney. Obviously, like, we don't have the details on why they've decided to do this. So we don't have all of the information. We're not insiders. We don't have anything from Disney on that. But what I will say is that I understand that you're trying to save money, but I think you could have done it in other ways, because I think that that is something that people expect when you're paying a premium, which you do at Disney. They really do expect that you're gonna go above and beyond, and that was one of those services that obviously went above and beyond, like the normal resorts. Like, I remember when we took our friends to Disney World and their son for a food and wine trip. When was that? Gosh, it was like 2 years ago now, which is crazy. But when we took them, they were blown away by Magical Express. Like, they were like, this is the coolest thing ever. This is amazing. Why don't more people do this? And we completely agree. And it's just something that really sets Disney apart. Now, we know that Disney is coming. They've reached a contract agreement with, and you can find all this information and so much more over on our blog, but they reached a contract agreement for a high-speed rail line that will go from the airport, from MCO, Orlando International Airport, to Disney Springs. And we think that's all fine and dandy. And hopefully they will model that kind of similar to they do Magical Express, but I see a lot of kinks in that. And as someone who worked in transportation communications for a really long time, I just see a lot of issues with this service unless they're going to have, which is something, I think we talk about this on the blog, but unless they're going to have the station where the rail line drops you off and the buses that go to each individual resort, and they're there like really frequently, and they're like maybe just for airport people and not just anybody wanting to go back and forth. I really think that that could cause a lot of like logistical problems, and I just see that kind of being a nightmare. But again, like, we don't know what's coming, so we are being optimistic. We're going to stay optimistic and trust that Disney knows what they're doing, because Disney obviously has way more experience with this than I do, or that we do. But Disney, if you want a transportation communications person, holler at your girl, because I did that for a really long time. I actually was, fun fact, I actually was on the communication team for, it's called the Silver Line in DC, and I was on the communication team for that project. It was really cool. It was really fun. And then I've also worked for the Department of Transportation, so I know what I'm talking about. I'm just saying that I think this could be a logistical nightmare, but we're gonna trust Disney knows what they're doing. So the next thing we wanna talk about, of course, is Disneyland. Disney made the announcement earlier this week, or last week, I think it was this week, that they are no longer going to be moving forward with their annual passes. Now, Disneyland is closed. As we all know, Disneyland has been closed for a long time, and it's almost been a year now. So Disney is hemorrhaging money with Disneyland being closed. Now, we're not talking about, like, should Disneyland be open? If you want to hear more about our thoughts on that, you can go to our blog where we talk about it. I'm going in with the Bare Minerals blusher in, I can't find that. I think it's called Luminary, but it's really pretty. I really like it. It's like a nice berry color. I really like it. I've actually never used it, but I do really like it, and I hope it looks good. Disney is hemorrhaging money in Disneyland, and they're also obviously hemorrhaging money in other parts of the world as well. And because of this, like, I think most people knew that Disneyland was going to restructure their annual pass program, their passport program. And there's actually a survey going around right now that is asking people if they like the specific tiered program that they are kind of working through. So how this program would work is that the higher tier you're on, so the more money you pay, the more access you have. So you would be able to make theme park reservations probably farther in advance, and you'd be able to make more of them. And then the lower tier you're on, kind of the less priority you would have in those things. So we know that when Disneyland opens, it's probably going to be pretty limited capacity, similar to Disney World when they first opened. Disney is obviously going to want to capitalize on that. So what they're going to want to do, I'm going in with just an eye primer, and we'll talk a little bit about eye primers here in a second. But what Disney is going to want to do is capitalize on the people who are going to obviously make the most money for them. And I know that this is like a really uncomfortable topic for some people, because, you know, we don't want to think of Disney as like money hungry or anything like that. But the truth of the matter is that Disney has to make money, or we're all in for a world of hurt. So Disney needs to make money. So they're going to want to capitalize on that. And so they're going to give top priority to the people who pay the most money for their tickets, and because those are the people who are going to spend the most money at the parks. And so that's kind of what this new system kind of looks like, I think. And now, if you know, at Disney World currently, you can make, annual pass holders can make 3 park reservations at a time. unless you're staying on property. If you're staying on property, you can make park reservations for the duration of your stay. So we're annual pass holders. We're obviously not locals, but we are annual pass holders. And so we could, I'm going in with a color pop. I love this. This is so beautiful. You should definitely check it out. This is the Color Pop highlighter in Manifest That. It's from one of their collections. I can't remember off the top of my head which collection it was, but I do believe it's still available. And they have other really pretty ones too if they don't have this specific one. We are annual pass holders, and because we're not locals, we really only make reservations for when we are there, and we typically stay on property. However, when we went on our trip in October, we stayed off property and we could only make 3, I don't exactly know how it worked because Bryson made all of our theme park reservations, but we could make a specific amount of reservations, and then into our stay we could make more. Now I don't remember if it was 3 or if it was because we were staying in a good neighbor hotel if we could make more, but I know we couldn't make enough for the duration of our stay. So
what's up, everybody? Brief interruption here just to clarify what Crystal's talking about. When we went on that trip in October, they had not come out with the rule yet about that annual pass holders could only have 3. So what happened was I had made reservations for 4 days of our trip before that rule came out. So we already had 4 set. Then once they came out with that rule, we could not make any more because we were over the 3. We had to go through our 4 while we were on that trip. Then once we were below 3, you could make another reservation. So we just had to make park reservations while we were there on our trip since we stayed off property. Like she said, if you stay on property, no problem, you can make a reservation for every single day of your trip. But that's what happened. I made those reservations before they came out with the rule of 3. Okay, back to Crystal.
So that's obviously a part of that system. And so annual pass holders who are locals are only allowed to make 3 park reservations at a time. And that is so that Disney can capitalize on the out-of-town guests who spend more money at the parks and on property, because they're staying at the parks, they're always eating at the parks, they're buying stuff at the parks. And while locals do spend money at the parks, the amount of money that they spend and compared to people who are obviously from out of town is nowhere near. And I actually did a blog post that kind of broke down the numbers on it. It was a while ago, so I should redo it, but it definitely broke down, like, locals are always talking about how they go so frequently that they spend more money, but it actually doesn't work that way, because out-of-towners are coming, they're spending money on resorts, then they're spending money on food at the resorts, then they're spending money on gifts at the resorts, then they're spending money on the parks. They were spending money on minivans, whereas most locals weren't spending money on minivans. The minivan service is no longer, rest in peace, super sad about that, but that's kind of the breakdown of it, is that they need that money from out-of-towners, and locals should be thrilled about that for a couple of reasons. One reason is because the more money people are spending at Disney, the less our annual passes are gonna go up. So we need people to come and spend a ton of money, and those are those out-of-town guests. Now, of course, the locals are definitely, they're loved at Disney, and they know so much about Disney, and they go to Disney frequently. They love it, but a lot of times they will only come for like half of a day, so they're not eating 3 meals on property, that kind of thing. So it just kind of breaks down. It's a really interesting thing for me. I love stuff like that. I love researching about stuff like that. So that's really interesting to me. All right, so now we're gonna start the fun part. I have primed my eyes with an eyeshadow primer. Let's talk a little bit about eyeshadow primers. Eyeshadow primer is your best friend because it really helps to reduce patchiness and to help the eyeshadow go on smoothly and glide onto your eyes. It's very similar. It's the same reason you use a face primer, right? So if you're using a liquid product, if you're not using a face primer, you won't have as evenly a distributed product across your face, and it won't. So I like to use blurring primers because I have really large pores right here, and so a blurring primer is going to really like even out my skin tone. And if you have texture, it does the same thing. So everybody has like different issues with their skin, and everybody has something. So there's definitely a primer for everything. I like the blurring primers, but if you're going to use a liquid product, I highly recommend starting with a face primer. Also, when you're going in with concealers on the as eye primers, they're not the same. So an eye primer is supposed to have a little bit more tack. It's going to have something that grips the eyeshadow onto the lid so that it like stays where you buff it out into, whereas like a concealer that's not the purpose of a concealer. So definitely recommend checking out an eyeshadow primer. I love the Urban Decay eyeshadow primer. This is also the Sephora base tinted and cooling eye primer. I really like this one, and it's really inexpensive. This is Sephora's own brand, so you can definitely find a primer that is a lower price, and it's going to help your shadows to just go where you want and stay where you want. So for our eyes today, we're going to go in, I'm using 2 palettes, but you can really just use the one. I just want to use a couple. I'm using 1 shade in this Go In Coconuts palette. I'm going to open the palette for you. This is my own fault. I did this. This is not anyone's fault but mine. We have a shadow down. So I dropped this palette, and I actually never found this shadow. So it's somewhere in the bathroom. I don't know where. But this is the Go In Coconuts palette. I really like this. We are going to go in with the Cocoa Crush. I'm just covering up the mirror so it doesn't glare back. But we're gonna go in with the Cocoa Crush, which is this center shimmer right here, as our topper. But we're going to use the Blush Crush palette, which is one of my favorites. This palette is probably about a year old by now, because I remember picking it up in like January, February of last year. And I just love the color story of this palette. You guys know I love ColourPop if you follow along on our blog, or on my last Get Ready With Me, I also did a ColourPop palette look. But I love this palette. I love the color story. I think this is perfect for Valentine's Day, for spring, for winter, anything you want to do. But we are going to go in with that 1 shade from the Go In Coconuts palette, but you can achieve a very similar look with something like this. This is the Pop a Bottle, which is this top center shade here. That'll create a very similar look. I just want something a little more goldy to go on the top. So let's jump into that. While we're doing our eyes, we're going to talk about cruising. So we've talked about this before. We have a cruise planned for May. This is Bryson's birthday cruise. It is full circle because our first cruise that got canceled was his birthday cruise last May, and so we have a cruise scheduled for this May. I am not confident that that is going to happen. I think that there's a 95% chance that that cruise is going to get canceled. I'm going to go in with this Lovesick shade right here, and I'm just going in with a little bit of it so that I can start to create some depth in my crease. So I'm going to buff this into the crease. So we had a cruise scheduled for last May, and that got canceled. Obviously that was our first cruise that got canceled, and Bryson was devastated because it was obviously like, who knew at that time how long this pandemic was going to be going on for? We just didn't know. And of course now we are a little bit wiser. I'm now going to go in with, it's called How Rouge. How Rude, How Rouge. It's this little berry color. So this is, it does have a little bit of a sequin in there. It has a little bit of glitter, but if you tap your brush, it'll completely fall out. I like to do that with my crease shades. I don't like to have a ton of glitter in my crease. So I'm just gonna tap it and then go in with the shade itself, and most of that glitter is gonna be gone. So we then scheduled a cruise. I don't even know when our second cruise was scheduled, but obviously it got canceled too. And then we had another cruise scheduled for February, and that one got canceled when we were in Disney for our Christmas and my birthday trip. So it was the very beginning of December. That cruise got canceled. So we rebooked it for May, and at the time we really thought there was a huge chance we were going to be, I'm going in with a fluffy brush like so. This is a BH Cosmetics brush, but I don't know. Oh, this is the number 5. So it's just a fluffy brush. I'm just gonna blend out my crease. We didn't know obviously at the time that what we know now, and we were like, oh yeah, everyone's gonna be vaccinated, the world's gonna be back to normal by May, like 100%. And then now most cruise lines, so Royal Caribbean, Carnival, and Norwegian, have all canceled cruises into May. Some of them have even canceled cruises through May. So it's not looking promising, and we do expect that that cruise is going to get canceled probably in the next few weeks. We're kind of going back and forth, so I would love to know from you guys, have you had a cruise get canceled so far? What have you done? You can either get 125% towards another cruise, and that's what we've done so far, is we've just booked it onto another cruise, or you can get a full refund. Now, if you get the refund, it does go back on, so I'm gonna go in with this Cheek to Cheek shade, which is this matte shade in the center, and I'm just gonna buff that, start to buff that onto my lid. We obviously, like, we wanna get cruising, so we don't want a refund, but if you do get a refund, and that's the choice you do make, you need to be careful, because if you're going to pay on a gift card, they're going to refund onto that gift card. So, or onto a gift card. So you need to be really careful about that, because it's not like they're going to just be like, hey, which credit card do you want this to go onto? They're going to put it onto the same payment that you made, which is a lot of people, that has caused, you know, some issues with some people. But so just be aware of that, that if that is a decision that you make, that that's what you're going to have to do, is get that refund onto that method of payment. So we do have another cruise booked in, next I'm gonna go in with, I'm trying to decide. I think we're gonna go in with this Blossom Up shade, which is a metallic shade there on the end. You can go in with this on a wet brush or a dry brush. I don't have anything wet in here except my water that I'm drinking, so I don't wanna do that. But I'm just gonna get that onto my lid and I'm just gonna pack it on. So we do have another cruise scheduled for October. Bryson is pretty confident about that cruise. I'm going to withhold my full thoughts on that until we kind of see where we are with like the vaccinations in like June, July, August area, to see where we are with that. So a couple of things with the different cruises is they are starting to there is a cruise line in Singapore that is doing short cruises with only people from Singapore, so you have to be resident, and they don't go to any ports, so it's just on the ship and back. And then we have also Royal Caribbean just sold off one of their boutique lines. I think it's called Azamara, and that we have a blog post all about that, so be sure to check that out. But that's talking about where everything is with cruising. But they just sold off, I think they had 3 ships on that line, and they just sold it off, so they got rid of that. It was purchased by a holdings company out of New York City, the company owns Talbot's and Torrid and Nine West, a couple other things. And they said that they're gonna use it to cruise. So they are going to keep the name and they're going to continue cruising once cruising starts up again. So that'll be interesting to see what really happens with that. We're really interested to see like how that goes. So we're gonna go in with this shade that I talked about, this Cocoa Crush. It's this center shade there. I'm gonna go in with my finger. That helps these foiled shadows and these like, so you can see there, it's like beautiful. And it helps to keep it that way on the lid. So it's really going to be interesting to see. Some cruise lines have announced that they're going to require vaccinations, which we kind of expected to happen. So it'll be interesting to see like what other cruise lines do and what kind of who sets the standard for that. We expect some of the larger cruise lines to kind of make those announcements before Disney does, even though we're sure Disney already has all of that stuff in the works. So I'm done with the top part. I'm just going to buff some shade into the bottom part of the lid, and I'm going to go in with an angled brush like so with that berry or that blush one, no, with that How Rouge shade, which was the second shade we used, that shade there. And I'm just going to buff that onto the bottom lash line. So we're interested to see what happens with that and how Disney decides to treat what the other cruise lines are kind of doing, and you know what differs with them. We do expect kind of similar things across the board from the cruise industry, just because it would make a lot more sense and it would be really helpful for them to kind of all go along the same lines. I'm going in with a ColourPop cream gel liner in the shade Best. It's like a wine shade, and I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna put that on the bottom lash line. So that'll be really interesting to see. We're really interested to see. We really just want to get back to cruising. I would love to know from you guys, like, are you Disneyland people? Are you Disney World people? Have you managed to get back to Disney World? Are you kind of waiting? Like, I would love to know what you guys have going on. Are you traveling to other places? We release quite frequently over on the blog. I release a guide to regulations and restrictions for all over the United States. So anywhere that is requiring a negative test, anywhere that is doing anything like that, I typically cover that pretty frequently over on the blog. So if you want to stay up to date on that, definitely recommend checking the blog out so that you kind of know. It's really important that if you're traveling, that you kind of know what the regulations are and the rules are for where you're going, so that you aren't surprised. So I'm just going in with this NYX liner stick in pitch black, and I'm going to just line the top. I was gonna do a wing, but I'm not because I don't have that kind of time. So I'm just sticking really close to the lash line on both sides. So another thing, this is not Disney related, I decided to do a no-buy, which if you've ever done a no-buy and you're a shopper like me, you know how difficult it is. So difficult. But I'm in the middle of this no-buy, which essentially I'm not buying anything. So I'm not buying any makeup, I'm not buying any skincare, I'm not buying any clothes, I'm not buying anything from now until March 2nd. That's a long time for me. So I'm gonna go in with my L'Oreal Voluminous Mascara and just to finish off the eyes here. So it's a lot for me. So one of the things I'm really excited about for this year is to do this project pan with some of my skincare and then also some of my makeup, because I have so many like beautiful palettes and like some of them are pretty pricey, and I want to use them more and create more fun looks with them as opposed to just constantly buying new palettes. I showed in the last Chit Chat Get Ready With Me that I had these 2 new palettes from ColourPop, and I hadn't even used one of them. I think it was the Baroque palette. It was one from that collection, and I was like, I'm gonna do a tutorial on the blog, and I still haven't done it. So I've had that palette now for like 2 months and I've never even used it. So like I think it's definitely time that I go through some of the stuff I already have. So I'm going in with this ColourPop Just a Tint in the shade, I don't know, because it doesn't say. I don't know what shade this is, but it's really pretty. It's like a deep berry color. And I'm gonna go in with that on, actually I'm gonna do a liner first. So I'm gonna go off camera real quick and I'm gonna line my lips and fill them in, and then I will be right back and we'll end this video. All right guys, I'm back. I just finished my lips. I lined them in the ColourPop Lippy Pencil in BFF2, and then I figured out what the shade is called. It's on the top. It's called Treasure Island. This is the Just a Tint from ColourPop. I love, love, love these, and they smell divine. They smell like passion fruit. And then I went over it on top with this Luxe ColourPop gloss in the shade Tied Up, and I love all 3 of these. I like to overline my lips a little bit because it does make them look fuller. I'm not getting any younger, so my lips are getting thinner, I feel like, every day. But that is the look for today. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed talking Disney, and I would love to hear what you would like the topic of the next Chit Chat Get Ready With Me video to be. Stay tuned to our blog because we always have so much Disney and more information over there for theloveofthemouse.com. And also right here on our YouTube channel, we will have so many more videos coming your way as we have a trip coming up. So I'm hoping that our next Chit Chat Get Ready With Me, we can talk about the menus for Flower and Garden because I'm so excited. If you haven't already, please make sure that you click that subscribe button, click that like button if you like what we're doing, and that bell notification so that you can be notified every time we release a new video. Thank you guys so much for stopping by, and for the love of the mouse, never forget that it all started with a mouse.
We only need the